the Flex Network. This is the Flex Network. Flex on them. Flex on everybody. This right here is the Flex Network. Flex on G. Flex.
Oh, yes, everybody. This is the Flex Network. We are live real early in the morning here. We have joining us today DFS Army's Kevin, the football geek. He won our Dynasty League last year. I know he's just smitten over there, gloating with the biggest shit-eating grin on his face. Geek, what's going on, man? Thank you for coming on the cast. It's fun to finally meet you via live in person so I can just look at you and have that face burned into my memory forever.
Do you think of this face when you have dreams of last season's Dynasty League and just the utter domination? This guy coming in, talking a lot of shit, acting like a big badass, and then backing it up by smashing the league, even after taking Le'Veon Bell as my first round pick. How did you feel about that? Was that hurtful?
Well, Geek, from this moment on, I will definitely have this face right here burned into my eternal memory. Geek, thank you so much for coming on. Today, everybody, we are going to be talking our fantasy avoids for the year this year in Redraft, the deep, dark, bottomless pits. As always, on the other side of the glass, we have the Flex Network comprising of one Shaner. Shane, how are you doing today, brother?
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everybody out there.
Hey, take that jersey off right now. It's
What?
a Patriots jersey.
It's a retro number 50, baby. A Mike Vrabel jersey.
A Mike Vrabel jersey making its appearance this morning. Season long says, what's going on, brother? How are you? Other side of the glass, DFS Army, season long says, Flex Network, what's going on, says.
I'm glad I could be here to unite all these crazy people in one room. This is going to be fun. I'm just here to observe, watch, and maybe comment a little.
Now, Geek, let's talk a little bit about you, just as I'm sure you want to do. DFS is primarily your foray into, I think, into the fantasy world. I'm seeing, DFS Army take down some real big pots. Since it's your first time on, maybe I should go with a tiny bit of an intro. Can you kind of let everybody know how did this all come about? What is exactly your involvement in DFS Army for those who don't know?
Oh, okay. Well, good question. So, to say DFS is my primary forte it's a bit disingenuous. I got into DFS because I love fantasy football. So, back in 2011, it was, and I had a bunch of leagues, and I was already obsessed with fantasy football for many, many years. I discovered FanDuel, and it had just started at the time. So I just thought this was the coolest. This was the coolest thing ever, and that's basically how I got into it. I just discovered FanDuel early on. Started to figure out that it wasn't a scam or anything like that, because online gambling, what's up with that? Started a blog about it. Eventually got really, really deep into it many, many years before other people started to discover it, before that blitz of advertising hit in 2015 and all that. And so, I've parlayed that into, I was doing really well, high ranked player, top 50 ranked for NFL. That was really how I got my start. I didn't even play other sports in the early days. And eventually we started DFS Army, which was all about, I had noticed that there was an issue at the time, and this was really back again before a lot of sites like ours then kind of followed suit. But there was an issue where a few people had built some tools that they had a massive advantage on everybody else, and they were like destroying the field in daily fantasy sports on FanDuel and DraftKings because they had access to certain tools that other people didn't. So I was like, I want that shit. But then I was like, I don't want to pay for it myself because it costs hundreds of thousands of dollars to build these kind of tools if you're not
Cheap
like a
geek.
software developer. Yeah, well, there you go. I mean, so I'm like, well, if I had a bunch of people pitching in together, we can do it. And that was the sort of dream brainchild of DFS Army, where I'm like, listen, I can't afford to pay $350,000 to a developer to make, you know, an incredible optimizer tool or machine learning systems and analytical tools for me, for my personal game, which, by the way, pro DFS players do that. And they have their own developer that like sits next to them. People don't know this. So I was like, fuck that. I won't pay for it myself. But if I have subscribing and if we become a team and we work together, we can create these things. And I can afford to hire some of the best players in the world, aside from myself. But for other sports like basketball and baseball and NASCAR and PGA, I could like find the sharpest analytical players and minds who are putting incredible tools together and hire them using team dues to just advise us. So that's the brainchild behind DFS Army. We're really different from every other daily fantasy sports advice site because those were kind of, most of them were corporate started, either that or they were started by some dudes who really like DFS, but they don't build tools because they don't have the funds, or like radio personalities that don't actually have skills. So what we did was really different because we actually went out and found the top ranked people for all these different sports and said, hey, come work for us, advise our people in the sport that you're awesome at. Put sheets together, bring us your analytics and all of that, and let's do that like as a team. So the beauty of what we do, and that's why I brought in Season Long Says, man, he's the sharpest season long fantasy football mind that I know.
The advocate, Season Long Says.
I am an advocate for Season Long Says. I bring in the sharpest people. Says, is this not what I told you? I said, dude, you're like the sharpest guy. You're who I call for advice. Why are you not advising the site? Like, and he didn't think he was expert material at the time. He's like, well, what the fuck do I know more than you do? So I'm pretty good at identifying.
Fake it till you make it, baby. Fake it till you make it.
There we go.
So Geek, two quick questions. How'd you get the nickname the Geek?
The fantasy football.
Is it because you look like a nerd?
I mean, I don't think I look that nerdy, but maybe I do. But no, here's what the definition of geek is. Okay, now let's smarten up, Matt.
Here we go. He's throwing the book at me here.
Matt, I'm actually enjoying this listening. Matt's asking great questions.
Can I just throw in the fact that you're going to go define the word geek?
No,
why you are a geek, which I love geeks.
I have a very strong definition of the term. Now you could say you could say nerd and geek are the same thing. They are not. What is a geek? Man, I geek out on Game of Thrones. What does that mean? I fucking search every message. I'm reading Reddit message boards. I want to know the back history of freaking House Targaryen. Okay. I want to find out who Bran the Builder was and what his fucking deal was 3,000 years. Like, I geek out on something. When you geek out on something, that means you want to know every fucking detail, every nook and cranny, and you're a different kind of person. Okay. When I can geek out on things that I find interesting.
In pro wrestling, we call that being a mark. We call those people marks. Like, you're marking out, man. And that's like when you can see some of these primetime guys, you know, show pictures of themselves back when they were, 13. They're now, the guys now, and they got pictures with, just marking out over Stone Cold Steve Austin over there, and that's who they are now, man. We're here, dude. We're marking out over ourselves, just trying to, and that's how you got to be if you want to really get into this game and feel like you're gonna be something. You have to believe it and dive yourself into it and embrace it and make yourself, everything that you can be, so that everybody else can start understanding that, you're the shit, man. And that's what we do. And we just flex on everybody. We appreciate you lending Season Long Says to this experience here. And you told us before air that you're just on tilt because last night you were in a deep online pool for DFS MMA. Please, before we finally get into this, give us the reason why you're on tilt last night.
All right. So obviously it's not fantasy football related, but I
Well,
mean, I'm just
that's okay.
experiencing this right now,
It's
and
tilt
it's
tilt
hurting.
related.
It's
That's
tilt
good enough.
related. So I'm gonna. Last night I was participating in the DraftKings MMA Knockout Finals. Okay, it's the final round of a contest that was 6 months in the making, involved all kinds of qualifiers to get in. You know, you won a certain number of tickets. Then there were you maxed out at 3 tickets. That was the most, 100 people total in the contest. Each the max you could have was 3. I had 3 tickets, so I was 3 of the 100. You had 2 eliminators to get to the final round. I happened to get all 3 of my tickets into the final round, which is amazing. So we're in the final last night, and all right, the first tilting thing that happened, first of all, I had an amazing lineup. It looked like right off the bat, a 12% owned Sabina Mazo, who knocked out her opponent for 8K, basically mid salary, and puts up 114, which was an incredible score. So we're in amazing shape with this lineup right after 10 minutes.
Oh, yes.
Tilt number 1 happens. A minus 1,000 favorite with a minus 400 inside the distance prop, which is ridiculous. A minus 1,000 favorite is pretty much the heaviest favorite I've ever seen in any MMA fight.
That's about a 10-1 favorite.
It's 3 times as much as Cyborg was favored when she fought like some like pudgy chick in her last fight that had never beaten anyone.
Oh,
Right? The guy gets himself knocked out after like 10 seconds.
10
puts up
seconds.
a 7, like the worst possible. So there's the most expensive fighter on the card. He was like, let me just lock in the points and I'll be lazy with this spot. I don't want to have to think about it. Let me put in the 100% 100-point scorer. He gets knocked out. So tilt number 1, because I have that guy in all 3 lineups. Fast forward to the final, even with the 7, I'm in position to take second place, and the 20. And I have another guy with the same lineup as me. So we're about to share $40,000 in prize money with myself and the other dude that has the same lineup as me. All I need is for Derek Cormier, not even just to win at this point. So
it's Daniel.
Daniel Cormier.
It's Derek
DC,
after the full-on tilt
Derek
from
Carr,
last night.
I'm back in fantasy football mode thinking about Listen,
it always
DC.
draws you back in.
So Cormier is up 3 rounds to none over Stipe. We have such a points lead at this point. I'm about 60 points ahead of my the next group. So I'm thinking now, even if this goes to decision and somehow Cormier loses, no worries, they're not catching me. But it didn't look like that was going to happen because Cormier was dominating for the whole fucking fight. 4th round, Stipe figured out that he could like do these liver punches. He just starts doing some punch to the gut that he hadn't done the whole fight before. Cormier has no answer for it. And he just, bam, and just keeps going to the body. And finally, after one of them, you see Cormier's face go, and I'm like, fuck, no, this can't be happening. He was winning the whole fight. Take him down, do something. Stop this. And, and he just folds. Now I'm like, motherfucker, was that enough to knock me out? And it came down to whether they counted Cormier's crumbling as a knockdown or if they just counted it as a crumble. Sometimes when you do a liver punch, they don't count it as a knockdown because the guy just kind of like goes like this, and they usually want you to punch him in the face for a knockdown. In this case, they count it as a knockdown. He gets the 4th. The point is that lineup that was behind me passed me by 3 fantasy points, which is like nothing in the scheme of this thing. And I'm like, motherfucker. And there were 3 guys who had it. So it drops me from second, 20,000 down to 5th, 4,000 with that lineup. And
wow.
it was just like, motherfucker, I'm already counting the 20 G's. Like
he'd already spent it.
Yeah, that's the real problem.
It's more about like, this was worth all the work I put into this fucking thing. And like, because you put in so much effort and so much research, you geek out on something, you know what I'm saying? So you put in all this effort and research and you watch 25 hours of fight tape just for this final. And my goodness, all the work that it took getting all those 3 lineups into the final and all that. To have it go down on a minus 1,000 favorite losing his fight is just really, really frustrating.
Couldn't have happened to a better guy,
Not a fun
Geek.
day. Not a fun day.
The Dynasty League winner. I am so sorry.
I
But
say this
isn't
all the time. Fantasy sports, they're a fickle mistress, man. Like, it's heartbreaking.
I mean,
isn't that
even my expected win in our fantasy league this season, in our dynasty league, does not make up for the tilt of this $15,000 law. I have to assume that I'm the favorite.
so isn't that the exact same feeling when you step up to the 4th round and you draft Kenyon Drake pre-walking boot? As we get into our fantasy avoids for the fantasy season this year, we will start with Season Long Says. I mean, Season Long Says the Kenyon Drake truther. Is Kenyon Drake first on your list for the season long avoids of Season Long Says?
Couldn't be further from the truth. In fact, this is going to kick his ADP down to about the 7th round, where Kenny Drake is certainly a buy, as long as there's nothing wrong with his foot. I mean, injury is the great equalizer in football, in all sports, but especially for running back. If he's a 7th rounder, and again, won't go too off tangent here, Kenyon Drake is the better player than Kalen Ballage. Kalen Ballage is a tight end in running back clothing. They're going to, once they get on the field, as long as Kenyon Drake gets his carries, the coaches will see that he is better. So, no, he's not an avoid. You want me just to shoot you my first avoid?
Oh, shoot it.
Yeah. Now, just to make this clear, all players are a buy at a certain price. The players that we're avoiding today are at the price, but I'm actually going to start with one that is an avoid at all costs. I cannot believe I still see Kareem Hunt getting drafted in fantasy football leagues. He is going to be suspended for the first 8 games, plus the Browns bye. So he's not back until week 10. And Nick Chubb is, I think he's the favorite to lead the NFL in rushing touchdowns, or he's in the top 2 or 3 to do it. You're going to have a clearly dominant back. Now, Kareem Hunt's going to have a role, but when you get into your season-long fantasy football leagues and the buys hit, how are you going to hold on to Kareem Hunt? That's a completely wasted pick. Sure, at some point in week 4 or 5, it'll be a game of chicken between your whole league to try to pick up Kareem Hunt. But in fantasy football leagues, he should not be being drafted. He will be on our waiver wire target column come week 4 or 5.
What is his ADP? Can somebody pull up Kareem Hunt's ADP?
I got it.
Go ahead.
His ADP is 80 overall. It's RB 46. So that's about the 8th round. Right? Shane, do the math. If 12 picks in a 12-team league.
Yeah, it's late 7th.
Late 7th, 8th. I mean, that to me is insane. I wouldn't advise it for your last round pick. It just makes 0 sense in a league where you have 5 or 6 bench spots.
Totally agree. I mean, Kareem Hunt, he definitely is a good player, but in my eyes, he's a big pretender in the real game of in the real game of football. Sorry, not fantasy football, of course. Well, I mean, I'll take him anytime.
Well, Matt, Shane, and again, I won't belabor the point too much, but are we? I mean, he looks like a good player, but are we sure he's a great player? It seems like every running back that goes through the Andy Reid Kansas City system it is an elite fantasy option. So again, I think Kareem Hunt's a good player, but can we be sure? Now we'll see him in a different system under different circumstances, and we'll see if he can transcend that.
Well, and just to add to that, I mean, are we absolutely convinced that when he actually comes back in week 10 that he's immediately gonna play a role in the offense? I mean, he's gonna be like, part of being suspended is that you're not with the team. So the fact that they have that bye week to kind of reacclimate with the team is an advantage for him. I mean, it gives him an opportunity to go and work those reps. But then a lot of people have to remember that on those bye weeks, oftentimes the entire team isn't there. It's the coaches will stick around and they'll game plan, but a lot of the time the players are off. It's their vacation for the week. It's their week off. It's a week away to fix their bodies up. So Kareem Hunt comes back in week 10. Is he going to have an immediate impact? Probably not. So let's call it week 11, week 12, at which point, if the Browns are rolling and Nick Chubb is having the season that we think that he's going to have, then maybe Kareem Hunt's getting 5 to 7 touches a game. Is that enough to be fantasy relevant? Maybe if you've been battling injuries all season, and maybe if you're in bye week hell, you can throw him in as a flex. But if you guys think that Kareem Hunt's going to come in and win your league, of course, barring a Chubb, knock on wood, injury,
I've got a Chubb right now.
Yeah, I think let's not kid ourselves, people.
So what you're saying, Maz, you're excited about Chubb?
I am excited, Geek. What do you think?
Love Chubb this season. I love the fact that people stupidly, it does tie into Kareem Hunt, that people stupidly seem to think that, oh, because Hunt is there, that Chubb isn't this great play. Like Hunt's going to come in and take his. Hunt is not going to do shit this year. If you fucking drafted Kareem Hunt, you're a moron. Okay, let's get it straight. Have you ever had a player come off the injured list or some off the team list and then he just plays? No, it takes weeks. Well, he's got to get his legs under him. He didn't do shit. It's going to be week 14. What's he going to do? Take over? Nick Chubb is their horse. Kareem Hunt is only there for like trade bait or some bullshit. If Chubb gets hurt, Kareem Hunt is like the worst handcuff ever because you've got to wait till week 11 for the handcuff to even kick in. So I'm crossing Kareem Hunt off my list, says. Thank you for stealing that one.
Yeah, so of course, nobody knows this, but we did not prep the Geek very much at all. We just said, hey, roll up in here with the list. And of course, every single one's going to be off because we are going to wait to the end to get to
Are you waiting for last for me? Is that how this is going to go down?
Other guest be next.
Hey,
I want to know. I got a couple. I think I have some that are unique. So I'm cool with it. I can go last.
Can I put a bow on the Kareem Hunt thing just by saying that Dontrell Hilliard looks pretty good in the preseason? And what if he's actually a viable backup and third down back? I think that's why they traded Duke Johnson. They have confidence in this guy. I'm not even sure Kareem Hunt is going to be the backup when he comes back. He can enter week 12 in the fantasy playoffs as the third string back.
I 100% believe. Also says I love when you go to Twitter with the NFFC drafts. I think looking in a recent one, he's the running back going before David Johnson at 5 right now. That at the end, I don't know. Potentially, I saw that. I think I don't remember. I thought for sure that Chubb was going at 5 ahead of David Johnson, which.
I saw that.
By the end of the year, we may be reviewing this cast and saying, hey, he might be RB number 1 overall. I mean, I don't think that there's anybody out there that has a small speculation that that's not possible in that offense this year.
Chubb's in a better situation than Barkley. We're not saying he's as talented, but he's in a better situation.
100%. Shane, who's the first guy on your fantasy void list with the deep dark hole?
I say this with deep heart, okay? So the year of our Lord, 2018, the heavens opened. It was my birthday, one of the greatest birthday presents you can ever get. The Cleveland Browns are trading Joshua Gordon to the New England Patriots. There was excitement in the air. People were excited. We had an elite level talent. What could happen? Just imagine the possibilities. A Randy Moss, here we go. And then he had an okay year, up and down, health issues, mental health issues. But guess what, guys? Guess what? Josh Gordon got reinstated back to the Patriots. He can play. Well, he can attend team meetings, but he can't quite practice with the team yet. I think that you look at the Josh Gordon ADP, and I just will not draft him where he's going right now. This is a guy who you could get at the last pick of your drafts a week ago, which, hey, there's a lot of Josh Gordon truthers out there. And if you wanted to take a flyer, take the flyer. But he is skyrocketed up to the middle of the 8th round. And at that price, I'm out. I'm out on Josh Gordon because, going back to a similar argument to Kareem Hunt, this is the kind of guy where there's going to be a truther in almost every single one of your leagues, where right now in the NFFC, he is going in the 8th round. But I could see this guy skyrocketing up to the 5th, 6th round as drafts progress, as he starts practicing with the team. But listen, guys, it's not like Josh Gordon played at an elite level last year. I mean, I look at his stats from last year, and he did play 12 games. He had 720 yards and 3 touchdowns. Now, when you look at the game logs around the end of the year is when he really did start to come on. But, after week 15, he left, and he left for personal health reasons. So first of all, let's assume in a vacuum that he actually does play for the entire season and there isn't any other hiccups, which When was the last time he played an entire season? 2013, which was his elite level season. That's a long ass time ago, people. That's 6 years ago. If you think that Josh Gordon is going to come in an offense that already is going to be a run first type offense, I think that you're mistaken. And where he's going in the mid 8th round, I would much rather take other guys in that position. I mean, like a Cortland Sutton, I'd rather take the upside on that guy. Look, I know that the Denver offense isn't going to be elite this year, but here's a guy he's in his year 2. I mean, when he was drafted, people expected that he was going to be there's going to be a bit of a learning curve for him, but he's an elite specimen, and I think he's going to be able to catch between 6 to 8 touchdowns, which, I would rather have that than the risk of a Josh Gordon in that range.
Says Josh Gordon, did you not just light up a fat joint the second you heard he was reinstated? Just joking. Of course you didn't do that. Of course you did.
Well, I mean, we poured one out for Josh Gordon when things weren't going well. Will he ever? And Shane's points are all. I agree with all of them, except here's the point: in the 7th, 8th round of your draft, even the late 6th, so many of those picks are going to bust anyway. Why not have a player that could really be an every week fantasy starter? And Shane, I saw something on Twitter by Lord Reeves. You've seen him on Twitter, and he
Rich Reba.
Yep, he put out a really cool stat. He said in the 3 games last season where Gordon played with no Gronk, so that's the key because there's no Gronk this season either. He caught, this was the game log, was 7 targets for 100 yards on 4 catches, 9 targets, 5 catches, 30 yards, 130 yards and a touchdown. And the third game without Gronk was a 12-target game for 4 catches and 81. Again, now, does that mean that he's the cheat code for your fantasy football drafts? No.
Sorry. When were those? Those were weeks, what, 8, 9, 10?
Yeah, those are the 3 games without Gronk.
So that's after it took 2 months for him to get acclimated into the offense.
Yeah.
So you're telling me that after this guy's been away from football for, what, 9 months, he's going to be able to walk in without practicing until what? Hopefully, we're crossing our fingers that it's this week. He's got about 2 weeks to become the number 2 receiver. I mean, I think if you're going to be drafting this guy, he's not going to be fantasy relevant for at least a month.
Well,
Geek,
again, and that's
come
why
on,
and that's why
bring it in here,
Geek.
Geek.
Yeah, I'm not on board. I'm not on board with the Gordon fade at all. First of all, the Patriots don't have a lot going on at wide receiver. They have a couple of promising rookies over there. You've got a very injury-prone Julian Edelman on that team, and then you bring it all around with no viable tight end on the entire roster. So, no, I know what you're saying from last year, and he was a frustrating player to own. And I absolutely agree that he could have a mental breakdown at any moment, and he hasn't shown that he's not going to do that. So, yes, from a psychological standpoint, sure, I don't trust the guy to keep his shit together for an entire season. I don't think anybody possibly could. He hasn't shown that he can do that. But from a, hey, fuck it, 8th round pick, I could wind up, he is absolutely a guy that while he's playing for the Patriots, while he is quote unquote the starter on that team, and I do think he'll start, 2 weeks is enough time to get at least your body somewhat acclimated to the game. And even if it takes a week or two, big shit. So for me, he's not somebody I would avoid because, yeah, it's, who else are you going to take there? Cortland Sutton? Hell no. Who's his quarterback? So I'm coming back to the same thing. What has Cortland Sutton shown, or Dante Moncrief? The guys in that range aren't that good. Now, if you tell me Curtis Samuel is still available there, because his ADP is showing right in that range, or if I'm making a choice between somebody like that, I'm going to favor somebody else. But no, I mean, in the range, who? Sterling Shepard? Fuck Sterling Shepard. Eli Manning sucks. And now, you know what? He might be on my list if you guys get me there. If you take all my other guys, I'm trying to stay at the top of the thing. But
Kick, you're done. Okay, get out of here.
Fuck
None of your list is listen. You almost scratched a guy off my list. Okay, I've had it up to here with DJ Moore. Okay, he is on my fantasy avoid list this year, mainly because I can arbitrage him with a wonderful, sleek, fast, untouchable Curtis Samuel. Okay. And just as you said, Geek, he is converging into the ADP rounds of a Cortland Sutton and also a Josh Gordon. Who would you rather have those donkeys, or would you have just the fast speed car rolling down, Lamborghini here, a Tesla, as we would all like to drive one day?
I don't drive that shit, man.
We
Fuck
don't drive
electric cars.
Teslas.
No, fuck electric, man.
You need gas cars.
I like pollution spewing from the back of my vehicle, and I will never change.
He's not a liberal.
Fucking
Well, we just lost about 14 sponsors there, Geek. Thanks.
Sorry.
Curtis Samuel. Are we all in on Curtis Samuel this year?
Do we need to ask that?
Yeah, I think we're literally all in on Curtis Samuel. And I want to credit Says for making bets like I would say almost a month ago, where he actually got on tape and made an actual bet with someone that Curtis Samuel
Man, you are just downplaying it.
DJ Moore.
He just downplayed the whole entire thing.
I mean,
he went on tape. Hold on, he went on tape.
Yeah,
and made a bet with someone. Okay,
I don't remember the deal. Do I remember your fucking?
Well, you took the fire from him. Okay,
bet, man. I wanted to give him a little without forcing him to humble brag it. I was going to brag for you.
Go, Says. Tell him.
I'm going to have my attorney Shane speak for me on this behalf. Go ahead,
Shane. International Sirius XM Radio. Prime time. Says went on there and said, not odds, straight up, Curtis Samuel will outscore DJ Moore. I thought he was crazy then. Frankly, I think he's a little crazy still. But man, it's coming home to roost, baby. He flexed. He flexed on international radio.
That's what we do here,
bold
guys.
Calls.
Okay?
Wait, bold calls.
That's what I'm saying. So Says, you don't even need to humble brag, because we'll do it for you. The most unhumble way. We flexed our fantasy muscles, our big throbbing fantasy muscles. We flexed it. And if this bet, which we 100% believe is on our favor, on our side, the hosts of Roster Watch will be on the Flex Network this year. And I'm sure even outside of the bet, they're going to come on, because we are flexing on everyone this year. Geek, all right. Number one, Geek, on your fantasy avoid list this year. Who is it?
All right. So I just want to point out that I'm working the high end of the ADP range here, because we're going to flex these calls. So let's flex with a serious call here. And my first player that I am avoiding and will not draft this season is none other than Devontae Freeman.
Ooh, good one.
Okay. Now, here is the deal with Devontae Freeman. Why the fuck? What evidence do you have that this guy is going to do anything different than he's done every single year that he's been in the league, including times when Tevin Coleman has been off the team? He's a timeshare back. He's going ahead of Josh Jacobs. He's going ahead of Marlon Cheeto Mack. He's going ahead of Sony Michel, Chris Carson. Workhorses. And Devontae Freeman has not shown that he's a workhorse. But wait, there's more. That's not the only reason. Because if I only had one reason, I wouldn't have geeked out on the topic, right? Reason number 2 says, who is the offensive coordinator for the Falcons?
Dirk
Cutter. Oh, Dirk Cutter. What team was he the head coach and offensive coordinator for last season?
That would be the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Tampa Bay Bucks. Yeah. I remember they had an awesome running back. Who was it, Shane? Oh, you don't remember? Because their fucking running back didn't do shit. Okay, it was Peyton Barber, but it didn't matter. That guy's offense does not produce points to the running back position. So we have two things going for us here. Why is this guy going ahead of actual play? You want to take him ahead of Kerryon Johnson? Oh,
absolutely not.
Oh, what? But somebody is, because that's where he is. You want to take him ahead of Cheeto Mack? You want to take him ahead of Mark Ingram? Mark Ingram? He's going to get 25 carries. But no, let's take Devonta Freeman. I've got more in this range, but I'm just starting with Devonta Freeman. Now, tell me why I'm wrong.
I'll tell you. I won't tell you why you're wrong, Geek, because here's the thing. You're definitely not wrong, okay? Because the Flex Network is not getting much shares of Devonta Freeman this year, okay? But I'm just hearing the buzzers. They're here. I hear them. Devonta Freeman, #1 fantasy running back overall. How long ago was that? Can somebody, since he was the #1 overall fantasy running back, has he even played a full 16 game slate since then? Anybody?
Those guys were the same guys drafting CJ Spiller, in year 4 of his attempt at being an actual running back.
CJ Spiller?
CJ
We just had a CJ Spiller reference.
Yeah, that's right. You're not going to hear CJ Spiller on other podcasts.
But I just blew up, dude. I just blew up right there. It just got me, dude. Just got me so good. Says CJ Spiller reference on the cast?
Yeah, I mean, CJ Spiller was a interesting fantasy player for a couple of years. I just got 2 or 3 counters to that one, and then I'll let Shane jump in here. Well, right now, latest ADP certainly has Kerryon going ahead of him. Kerryon's moved into the late second round in NFFC. He's RB12. Devonta Freeman's RB16 at the end. He's going right. You're having to make a decision on Freeman when you pick Melvin Gordon in the 3rd round. That's really the decision that people are making: a healthy running back or in Devonta Freeman or a holdout. Now,
we're going Melvin.
Yep. Now Freeman's best season did come when Dirk Cutter was the offensive coordinator in Atlanta. He left to go coach Tampa. Now he's back. So that bodes well for Freeman. And there's really no clear #2 behind Freeman. So just on a workload basis, he is going to get 250 carries, probably 300 total touches. He's healthy now, and that's all we can. And he has been a fragile veteran. We do know that. But if he wasn't a fragile veteran, he'd be going at the end of the 1st round. I think the price is baked into the uncertainty with Freeman. So again, I could see people passing him for the other running backs in that area, but I think he's appropriately priced in the sense where he has #1 overall running back upside on his resume. I know it was a few years ago already, but there's a theory, a law of I don't know, that says once you display that skill, you own it. And I think, again, Freeman is appropriately priced, but if you've been burned by a player, I can see you fading him. I don't fade him at that price. It just hasn't fallen to me. And there's other players that I do like around there, like Chris Carson.
Wait, can I throw this out there? Because you said there's no viable backup. I say, and I'm willing to bet, Devonta Freeman does not get more than 60% of the overall running back opportunities for the Falcons. And I believe it's going to be Ito Smith, but there's a couple of guys there. Brian Hill, I believe, is another name. But Ito Smith, whenever Coleman or Freeman went down last year, it was Ito Smith that came in and basically played the same role. Now, obviously, new offensive coordinator, but that team just does things a certain way, and I'll believe it when I see it, when that changes.
And I'm going to come right to you, Shane, here in just a quick second. But what we need to start doing, guys, is we need to have just one big pad of paper that just is always by our computers here, so that when we start making these bold calls and these hot takes, we need to start writing them down so that we can check them postseason and be like, nope, geek, nope, geek, nope, geek, nope, nope, nope. Yes. Shane, what do you got to say about Devonta Freeman? Is it Devonta Freeman or Devonta?
Probably Devonta Freeman, I think. I don't know. I don't really have a hot take here because I kind of agree with everybody's points. And I would be comfortable taking him probably in the late 3rd round, depending on how I started. I mean, if I've got, say I go running back, I'm absolutely fading Devonta Freeman. But if I want, say, wide receiver, and Devonta Freeman staring at me there, then I would 50% of the time I'd probably take a risk on him. But obviously it's all about the risk factor, right? And the issue with Devonta Freeman is the fact that he has had 2 injury-riddled seasons back to back. He has the concussion history. It just takes one, and then that's it. I mean, for all we know, it could be a career-ending concussion. But then, going back to the fact that right now the backfield is a bit of a committee. Apparently Judge Ito is just not having a great preseason. Brian Hill could potentially go, and I'm just laughing at all the little comments. These guys, I can't even get a thought out. But I mean,
unreal.
Right now, like Brian Hill, I mean, he could be potentially getting to red zone work, which is what Ito Smith got last year instead of Tevin Coleman. And it drove fantasy owners absolutely nuts last year, unless you were like me and you had the foresight to play him in in DFS, you were pretty happy to play the judge. But and then there's like slug Quadriolis in, so it is pretty up in the air. And the risk is the fact that Devonta Freeman isn't a big guy, so he might not be getting that goal line work. So what's he going to be getting you? 70 yards, maybe 4 receptions a game, and I don't know, if we're lucky, 12 to 15 touches, which in that range, there are other guys, like obviously the Carrions of the world, the Marlon Macks of the world. Josh Jacobs is supposed to go and get just an absolute
heavy workload.
Yeah, so if those guys are off the board, then yeah, I'd take a shot at Devonta Freeman. But I mean, at the range he's going in, I don't have a hot take because it's like it's
Yeah, he's not
I
a
would
cup
draft
of
him
tea.
once in a while.
We're flexing in our drafts. We're not just taking the rest of what's left here.
Yeah, I don't have a lot of exposure to Freeman. That's all I'm going to say.
Says, we know you're not drafting Devonta Freeman this year, of course, but give us your last guy this year. Fantasy avoid the deep, dark. Let's just get it to the dark pit.
Isn't it your turn?
We don't have a list here. We don't have a role.
Right.
We don't have turns.
All right, cool. All right. This one is, again, it's at the top of the draftings. I'm not sure I understand Adam Thielen's ADP. I know that for the first 8 weeks of the season, he was 100 yards and a touchdown, or 100 yards was guaranteed. But when they switched offensive coordinators midstream last season, he was barely a startable player. And that offense, they went to a run-heavy offense. Dalvin Cook is back and healthy. And that's the offense they're rolling with this year. Now, I know it's a small passing tree. Like, they basically throw to the 2 receivers. They're going to throw a little bit to the running back. And I know they drafted Irv Smith. Maybe he'll get some of the work. But I just don't understand that if they're going to be in a run-heavy offense, taking Adam Thielen in the second round. I know sometimes he falls to the third, but he's wide receiver 11 right now. I have done easily, conservatively, 70 drafts, if you can include $1 drafts, and 50, drafts of at least 10 to $5 or $10 each. And not once did I find myself clicking on Adam Thielen, almost to the point where I'm having a little bit of FOMO. Maybe I should get one share, but he is just not someone that I'm willing to take in the late second, early third where he's going.
Thielen's Thielen is you're right. I've done a lot of drafts too, and absolutely 0 shares of Thielen. Geek, do you have a Thielen for Thielen?
I don't have a feeling for Thielen. Listen, I do think that the Vikings offense overall is going to be better. I think there's just going to be more quality there. And I do think that with the proclivity of Stephon Diggs getting hurt and, messing up with his soft tissue injuries, there's that opportunity for when he's out of the game. There's a couple of reasons why Thielen has good games. Part of it is the NFC North has really great CB1s across a bunch of different teams, and that tends to shut down Diggs, and so they'll go to Thielen in those games. But no, I think Thielen's a little bit too high. The volume was there last season, but it was there early, and then you had a very long stretch of horrible games. So while I do like Thielen as a player, if we're talking about his ADP, that's usually a spot where I'm trying to get like Zach Ertz or Kittle or one of the elite tight ends, and I'll always take the elite tight end over a player like Thielen, because I feel like I can get kind of a similar player in the next round at wide receiver. So I can't get a similar player to that at tight end once the elite 3 are gone. So that, for me, and Alan, I mean, guys, tell me if I'm wrong in exactly where the ADPs are, because I'm looking at one that's not the NFFC, and so I'm not sure where that's going. But on the ADPs that I'm looking at in your standard drafts, when you're taking Thielen, Ertz is usually still on board, and a lot of times Kittle is on board as well. Kelsey won't be, but the other 2 guys will still be there.
Yeah, Geek. I knew you were a smart guy, Geek. They call you the Geek. Okay, the Flex Network has been toting a very special draft strategy, and it consists of one George Kittle in the second round this year in redraft, which we don't come to our drafts like I said earlier, just to take what's left. Okay, we go up, we grab our guys, we shake the draft, we make everybody pay attention, and getting a tight end in the second round just like you said, Geek, when you have a Thielen there, actually, I don't have any Thielens for Thielen in the second round. Are you kidding me? Shane, who's your last fantasy avoid for the day here?
Well, I guess I'm a little bit contrary to everybody else, but I'm avoiding Zach Ertz in the third round. I just have no interest in the third round when you can go and get an OJ Howard or Hunter Henry or even an Evan Ingram in rounds 5, 6, sometimes round 7 if you're lucky. I just have no interest in that. And because I'd rather go and get one of those second tier running backs if you want to like bolster your running back core, or I'd rather go and get one of those top end wide receivers in that range. I mean, there's just too many mouths to feed. And I know that's an absolute cliche, but in Philadelphia, I think that there's going to be so many different contributors every single game. I mean, we're talking about the Miles Sanders breakout this year. He's going to get that on his probably 10 to 12 touches a game. When Jordan Howard's still going to get his 10 to 15 touches a game. And then you still got Alshon Jeffrey, who's the number one receiver on there. Oh, and there's Deshaun Jackson. And then there's a rookie, JJ Arcega-Whiteside. And to me, it's just like everybody's talking about how Ertz is going to be, super efficient, and he's still going to get all the looks, and he's going to get all the receptions this year. But to me, there's just too much risk in the third round where, if he was going in the range of those other guys in the 5th or 6th round, yeah, I would absolutely love Ertz. But at the price of the third round, no, thank you. I'm out.
Geek, that's almost, directly not contrary.
Come at me, Geek.
What do you want here, Geek?
I keep hearing about all these mouths to feed in Philadelphia as this repeated narrative that I don't know. I'm just not buying. So I don't buy it. I don't buy it. Who the fuck is Deshaun Jackson but an old man who gets 5 targets a game? Fuck Sean Jackson. Are you drafting him? Hell no. Right? We're talking about Alshon Jeffrey, a year in disappointment, always gets hurt. The running back stuff, okay. Running backs don't interfere. Like that. That's not a problem for me. But the biggest one is this. And I do love your pronunciation of JJ Arcega-Whiteside. So very, very impressed. I do love pronunciations of names.
Spanish,
That's
Madridian
That's
I
isn't that how he said to pronounce it? I saw that
is, yeah.
on Twitter. He said he.
I just enjoyed it. I enjoyed it very much. But my final point to this is the big risk with Ertz, and I do think he'll fall down a little bit off of his reception numbers, which were spectacular, 110 receptions last season. But the biggest issue is Goddard in there, and you are going to see Goddard, playing that tight end position, getting some of those targets. And so I do think the target share will come down. But as a counterpoint, again, Ertz is still miles above the next guy. I don't get OJ Howard might be on my fucking list here. Stay tuned. But I think Ertz is I'm not going with him. I have other ones.
Okay, Geek, you can't do that, Geek.
I'm throwing him out there.
You're up next anyway, Geek. So just be ready. Why don't you just fire into your pick right here?
Because I've got better ones. So
okay, well, I can't wait.
I've got a few here. I mean, one that really bothers me. I think this one. I don't know how to choose. I hate them all so much. Okay, I'm going to go with Damian Williams. I'm trying to stick with high.
Oh no, Matt.
Who did I take him from?
Me.
Right. Fuck Damian Williams.
Why? No, you didn't take him from me. Sorry. I am so high on Damian Williams this year.
Enjoy him. Thank you.
Go
for
ahead.
That. So a 27-year-old. In fairness, the choice was Damian Williams or Kenyon Drake. It was a loser either way. All right. So a 27-year-old running back has been in the league for multiple years. 5 years, it says. There you go. Hasn't done shit. Never more than 70 carries in a season. Last season, not more than 12 carries in a game. Had a couple good games. Okay. You know who else had a couple good games one year and then got drafted in the second round? Thomas Rawls of the Seattle Seahawks. How did that work out? Really bad. Why? Because these motherfuckers can't stay healthy. They can't hold up. I don't get it. Why are you taking him ahead of Kerryon Johnson, Leonard Fournette, Aaron Jones, Josh Jacobs, Marlon Mack, Derrick Henry, Mark Ingram, Sonny Michel, Chris Carson? Why is he going ahead of all those people? Oh, he's with Kansas City. Guess what? Carlos Hyde will have more carries this season.
Write it down.
Oh, flex.
Than Damian Williams.
Flexing on the Flex Network.
Fucking jump in on the flex.
No. No, I will not allow myself to believe that, geek. Not
that
at
a-
all.
Could that be a title for the podcast? Flexing on the Flex Network.
Dude, geek, let me tell you something, okay? Thomas Rawls, 5'9", 215, runs a 4.58. Okay? This guy was a slug. He was a pretender. Okay? Damian Williams, 5'11", 222, runs a 4.45, 92nd percentile. His speed score is 113.2. That's 95th percentile speed score. Last year, when he got the number one opportunity, finally, first time in his entire career, finally got the opportunity to be a bell cow back, and he was in every single play. And he was dominating. And he was utterly dominating. And that is exactly why Kansas City waited to the 4th round to draft a running back this year. Could have easily had anything that they wanted, but no, they see this light, this darkness that was once, but now there is a glimmer of light. Damian Williams, top 5 RB this year, flexed. I can't even think about it anymore, geek. Can't even think about it.
And DJ Moore was worth the number 1 pick in 2020. Similar chances of it happening. I don't mind drafting Damian Williams, to be clear, and I do think he should be fine. But why would we take him ahead of it? This is versus ADP, not some motherfucker I don't want on my team at all costs. And I'm not taking him ahead of Leonard Fournette. I'm not taking him ahead of Kerryon Johnson. I'm not taking him ahead of Josh Jacobs, Marlon Mack. He is being taken. Chris Carson, Sony Michel. He should be after those guys, not before them. He is going to be a timeshare back 100%. He will not get 25 touches a game. He will not get 20 touches a game, and he'll be lucky if he passes 15.
So let's do this again. I'm sorry, Says. I'm on fire right now, okay?
Yeah. I was going to keep
the Kansas City offense made Kareem Hunt good. The reason why Kareem Hunt is not a good running back and will not be able to come back after the suspension and take any time out of anybody, Kareem Hunt, people don't know this, runs a 4.62. Geek, I could put you on the track right now and I bet you'll run a 4.8. Okay? You're probably just close as fast as Kareem Hunt. Okay?
I'm good for about 30 seconds.
Kareem Hunt was the number 1 running back in fantasy over the first 8 games of the year or whatever it was. Damian Williams is more electric, and he's going to use that offense to just get himself a juicy contract next year. I don't care for who.
I'm going to put this picture in your head. It's your dynasty team. You've got Damian Williams in the starting role. Right? Yes. He's getting his 12 carries a game, couple receptions. You're feeling pretty good.
A couple
receptions.
7.
Right? You're like, oh, I got a couple points. Then it's on the 3-yard line, and who trots out but big, fat Carlos Hyde with a burrito in one hand, a football in the other hand. He's like, motherfucker, give me that touchdown, motherfucker. Vulture the touchdown from Damian Williams. So you're going to get...
Didn't happen last year. They didn't take him off the goal line last year.
Was Fat Carlos on the team last year?
Are you saying just because it's Carlos Hyde, they're going to take him off the goal line now? He's got a burrito in his hand. You just said he had a burrito.
What do they do with the fat guy on a team when they get to the goal line? They put in the fat guy. What did Detroit do with fat LeGarrette Blount when they got to the goal line? Even though he sucks, they fucking trotted his ass out. They carted him out there. They rolled him out there. They had a couple dudes pushing him out on his little cart. Hey, get him in there. Get the fat guy. We're on the goal line. Let's vulture a touchdown. We don't want to give it to any Kerryon Johnson fantasy owners. That's what you're going to feel. You're going to feel the punishment of having drafted Damian Williams when he gets removed at the goal line and they put in a fatty. Or when my boy Patty Mahomes is throwing for his 35.5 plus touchdowns this season. What?
If Patrick Mahomes is throwing for over 35 touchdowns this year, and we really think that he's going to flex into the 50s easily, Damian Williams is getting 10 of those some Mitches. Okay. He is getting 10 of those. And to finish off the cast, my final fantasy avoid is a hard one. It really is. Because I am from the Pacific Northwest and I am a fan of the Seattle Seahawks. And I have been just waiting as a fan for them to unleash the greatest quarterback of all time. And please allow him to pass more. Oh, but wait. In the second round, they draft one DK Metcalf. And he brings light to the people. Maybe they can unleash Russell Wilson's mega throbbing cannon of an arm and pass the ball more. We are just so hoping this. But where DK Metcalf is being drafted, I want nothing to do with it. Absolutely nothing. Somebody's got his ADP up right now. Go ahead. Where is he being drafted? And who is around him at that point, says?
So currently, DK Metcalf is going off the board at wide receiver 53. That's 132 overall. And the players that you're having to decide between are so that's about the eighth to 10th round, depending on his range. It's Tyrell Williams, Jamison Crowder, Funchess, John Brown, Debo. So a lot of the rookies, a lot of the sophomores, and Tyrell Williams. A couple of the other guys going ahead of him right now. Josh Gordon moved ahead of him. James Washington, and the two Green Bay receivers fighting for this number 2 spot.
Andrew Luck's number 1 wide receiver is being selected after DK Metcalf, a wide receiver 2 who has a worse agility skill than Tom Brady. And once the defenders key on the fact that he can only just run downfield fast, this opens up the game for Lockett. This opens up the game for Penny. But I'm just afraid. Also, Anthony Miller's probably going around there. A second year, I believe, who
they're going back to back. They're 50 and 53, so they're almost connected.
Exactly. That's the guy we should really be targeting this year. Scored 8 or 9 touchdowns his rookie year on a torn shoulder. 7 on a torn shoulder. It's Miller time. It's Miller time. Says to finish this cast off, DK Metcalf, big thumbs down.
Oh, no argument for me. He's not. He's a waiver wire guy that we'll probably have on the top of our waiver wire podcast in a given week, but there's no projectable, week to week score for him. I mean, especially as a rookie receivers in general are not draftable in the late single, early double digit rounds. Maybe he's a late round flyer, but he's not going to be at any of my teams. Potentially to be great, but like you said, at the current ADP, I just don't see it early on in the season during the draft.
Geek, go ahead, Shane.
What, you don't think all the yoga he's doing is going to help his agility scores, Matt?
I don't know. He's probably doing lots of yoga. He's probably doing so much yoga, dude.
Yeah, no, honestly,
Unreal.
I think that like DK Metcalf, I mean, look, going back to the original Josh Gordon discussion, if you're going to take a flyer at the end of your draft on DK Metcalf, I don't necessarily have a problem with that if you're going 17, 18 rounds deep. But, if you've got a normal draft and you're going 14, 15 rounds, and at the end you're getting your kicker or a defense, he's a fade for me. He's waiver wire fodder.
Geek, thank you so much for coming on the Flex Network, brother. We really appreciate your time this morning. It was a sincerely fun podcast. Hopefully everybody out there gets to like and enjoy this. Just on the way out here, Geek, I fleeced you for Kyler Murray. Am I right here, guys, in our Dynasty League? A first round this year, a first round next year, and Damian Williams, my guy, for Kyler Murray in a super flex dynasty. I fleeced him, right? I mean, geez.
In hindsight, from some of your other trades. Yes.
Which were great. Were also great.
Yes. Compared to those, some of the worst trades I've ever seen in Dynasty history. The fair trade that we did was a fleecing of sorts.
That's so funny. That's so funny, dude, because yes, you won last year, Geek, but never again on my watch.
I want to point out again, with one quarterback, not two. I won with one quarterback and Le'Veon Bell on my bench.
Oh my gosh. Okay, Geek. Where can everybody find you, brother?
Football Geek on Twitter, dfsarmy.com. Sign up with promo code Geek. You get 20% off your monthly dues. We're a team. You become part of my family.
Shane,
that's all it is.
What's up with you, brother? Where can anybody find you?
All right. Well, you can find us on at the Flex Network 1 on Twitter, or you can find me at Sealy_Shane.
And Season Long says, brother, we need to get you to change your freaking handle because what are you doing? Season Long said, like, you have to, what if somebody else comes out with Season Long says? What are you going to do? You have no stake to the claim.
Here's my pledge to you. By the time this podcast is posted, it'll be changed.
Okay,
Not to mention,
well, you better do it right now.
Alan Seslowski, including me, and I know this fucking guy for 25 years. I can't spell it.
That's what
I can't
I'm
spell it even now. I'm like, wow, I don't know. Does it have an S? Does it have a Z? I don't fucking know how to spell it.
Thank you, guys. This is the Flex Network.
This is the Flex Network. This is the Flex Network. Flex on them. Flex on everybody. This right here is the Flex Network. Yeah. Flex on the G. Flex.